Hey guys, it's Jack. I just wanted to talk to you today about a way that you can help support the podcast if you're not already. We would really appreciate it if you guys went and reviewed us on Apple or Spotify. Those reviews really help people find the podcast and help it get recognized. And, if you've been enjoying the show, we really appreciate your support. Another thing that you can do to support the channel is to become a Patreon member. So we have Patreon memberships that start at just $5 a month. And when you sign up, you get access to all of our episodes ad free. That's the big bonus for that. I mean, we also do some Patreon bonus episodes for our subscribers. But this is the biggest and best way that you can support the Team House channel and podcast if you'd like to. And we really appreciate that. So go and check us out at patreon.com/the Team House.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Eyes On. I'm Andy Milburn, former Marine Infantry and Special Operations Officer. Now co-hosting this program with Jason.
Hello, my name is Jason Lyons. I'm a former Marine Corps enlisted and CIA officer. Love it here. And one of our co-hosts is D. We'll kick it over to you.
I don't know if I'm a co-host.
Yeah, real quick.
Yeah.
Very quick question on editorial policy. I know Jack said that primacy is to enlisted personnel. We went through a no rank period for a while, but now I notice ranks are back front and center.
Yeah, isn't that interesting how that
just
works?
Observing trends, that's all. Yeah.
Where do you see the ranks though? Here, like right now when we just did this?
Yeah.
I mean, I wanna spice it up a little bit.
The anti-officer propaganda too, in the background, in the comments, is building.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I got a thick skin. All right, D, over to you.
Yeah, that's totally Jack. That's 100%. I'm throwing that thing on Jack for sure. Thanks guys for being here. I'm the producer D, producer Team House, Eyes On. I mean, things are still blowing up in the world for sure. It's not exactly quiet, but I guess the big news we didn't touch on was Alexander Navalny winding up dead in Siberia. So that's probably the best.
Yeah. We were going to talk about that last week. I'm not a Russian spotting expert, so I'll fire a few the sparse bullets that I know, and then you guys build it on and amplify it. All right. So Navalny for Dummies started when Putin was first elected president. Coincidentally, Navalny embarked on his path of opposition. It was almost personal in Putin's mind. It was personal. Anyone who opposed Putin, it was personal. And he was consistent, and for a while there, I don't know if you guys remember, but he had an extraordinarily large following. It's interesting to watch how Putin took the gas out of the following. In fact, they got him released from prison one time a few years ago. Just the demonstrations all over Russia. There were, I think there was a couple of them turned violent, and Navalny was released. But Putin, with the war, he has let out the balloon on all that support. So people in Russia now are either buckling down or they're leaving. It just doesn't. I don't know if you saw this isn't serious media. The Economist reports they just jailed a 75-year-old woman for 5 years for criticizing the war. This is not exaggeration. They have gone fucking lunatic. And so when Navalny's wife comes back and says, "Hey, it was Novichok," that's not far-fetched. No. But the point is, it was a death sentence anyway, where they sent him, what was it called? The Arctic Wolf Prison.
Yeah.
There's about, there's 4,000 guys there. No, 440 in that kind of modern day gulag. And there's, I didn't know how many in this particular prison, but 600 of them are political prisoners, and they're given special treatment. And he was getting lots of, they knew he was going to die. He was getting lots of solitary and freezing conditions. His health was failing. It was a matter of time. It just seems that they did use Novichok, that seems. But they've got nothing. Who's doing a damn autopsy? It's control the body and everything. He was extraordinarily brave to go back. Yeah, and I think, but I don't know, that maybe he misjudged it too. I mean, I'm not criticizing his courage and for going back. And I do believe, what he said at the time is kind of similar to Muhammad Ali's. You remember when Muhammad Ali said he wasn't going to go to Vietnam,
Yep.
but he didn't take off for Canada or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, he paid the price, right?
Yeah.
And that was kind of, I know Navalny's going to be, if he's rolling in his grave because I just, compared him to a boxer, but it's, listening to him speak, he's like, hey, right or wrong, my country, I make myself relevant if I stay overseas, and if I go back, whether they imprison me or not, whether they kill me or not, the fight continues, and I'm a focus point.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
tremendous.
Go ahead, man.
No, I
No,
think
I've told you, I'm, fairly, not a lot, I mean, if you had one of these one of the, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the think tank, but they'll go into great detail about, I lose track of that,
I mean, I remember
names.
Navalny like came on my radar when he did that video about Putin's like $1 billion Dasha, like down on the Black Sea or wherever it is.
Oh, yeah. That was the beginning of the end, apparently.
Yeah,
that was
huge. It did huge numbers. I think it has like 120 million views on YouTube. Like, it really pushed them into like the world spotlight.
Yeah.
I mean, but also the other thing that keeps creeping is like, let's not get it twisted. Like, Navalny was some like liberal Western kind of politician. He was like a nationalist who, he wasn't like exactly what, everybody's worse than Putin for sure. But like,
no, I mean, we tend to eulogize and make heroes of people who do show courage or exhibit great talent or simply dislike the people we dislike. Because we want to have a hero, right?
Right.
If you notice that Americans just love a hero. When you remember working with foreign nation partners, and we're always like, he's our guy, man, he's awesome. And then he does something really fucked up, and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe he did that. And it's just like, dude, he's been brought up to survive.
Right.
He doesn't get all this. Hey, I got this, hey, I got all these buddies. He's a pragmatist, and he doesn't like betraying your trust, but he will do it in the end.
Do it
because he's a pragmatist, and you can't take it personally, dude. But yes, we do that. We want to make heroes. Sorry, we reach from the morning to that. But hey,
Jay, what were you gonna say? Jay, what were you gonna say?
No, I'm sorry. Just gonna say from an intelligence officer perspective, you may be friendly as hell with the asset, with your asset or the person you're sitting across from, but you keep it in mind every single time that you're meeting with that person, that, again, like you said, Andy, they're going to do whatever they have to do to survive. So it's on you to recruit that person every single time, because who knows, between the time that they said yes, they're going to spy for you, and the next time you see them, who they've talked to, maybe they got they were approached or crisis of conscience and decide to go to security. So it's a matter of trust, but it's a matter of mistrust. You just have to always keep that in mind. As soon as you let your guard down, that's where you get screwed.
Expectations, right?
Yep.
We always aim our expectations way too high.
Yeah.
I think the key is in life is being able to manage your expectations. If you could do that, like, you're probably not in for a lot of hurt if you can kind of manage what what you're thinking and stuff like that. And that wishful thinking. We had a guest on the team house, Louis Reed, a former officer. And he was talking.
You invited him on?
Yeah, can you imagine?
Okay.
No, CIA officer. Excuse me. Okay. Yeah, not a military officer.
Way more passive aggressive.
Yeah. He was good though. He was talking about like everyone's got wishful thinking. They just think like the best thing is gonna that could possibly occur is gonna occur, and nothing can go wrong. And it's like when people are talking to me, he's like, it's almost like baffling how like people in high places, like, you assume are smart and accomplished, and they have like literal wish, like they just hoping for the best is kind of crazy in the world of like geopolitics or intelligence. Even it's like,
hope it's not.
Even in the military. Yeah, even in the military, what does it say? Best plans, the best laid plans, first shot right out the window. So You just have to.
Speaking,
What's that?
yeah, speaking of which, so the on it just come well, actually, I always defer to you because you're the boss, but the sake of the
Yeah.
audience, I'm here in Israel, researching a book, and I don't really feel comfortable talking about things in depth while I'm still here. And of course, it would bore you, but there's a couple of interesting things that have had me thinking today. One is this: there is an argument. I'm not saying I'm so, that's my conclusion. I've just started the research, but there is a strong argument here that the IDF got away from its core roots of war fighting, that and it's not as simple as, yeah, they fucked up in the second Lebanese war, or they had a lot of problems. I don't mean fucked up. I mean, and it was scathingly written about. The Vinegrad Commission came out, and it found a lot of serious lessons learned, and the Israelis normally pay close attention to their lessons learned. I mean, much better than British or Americans, because they can't afford to mess around. They really, if you track things, they do. And the problem is that wars change. But my point here, because it does, I don't want to open this whole discussion about criticism, what's going on in DoD now, but here it is much the same sort of discussion. It's not about diversity and all of that, but there's a feeling that the military has got increasingly complacent, and that it has an effect on doctrine and training, and that the really hard-edged wars are relegated to the past. The War of 73, the War of 67, and now in Gaza they're in a slugfest. They've lost 500 guys, 14,000 wounded, which the size is huge. Yes, they've got 5 brigades in the city, but still, that's in the period of time, in the context of the 21st century, in the context of a small nation of 10 million people, 500 dudes in 3 or 4 months is a lot. And I know your listeners are going to criticize me and say, "What about on the Palestinian side?" I'm not comparing numbers. I'm just saying I'm talking about the IDF. And another IDF soldier told me today, an officer actually said, the IDF of 6 October is not the IDF of 10 October. And it's very interesting. He then went on to explain what he meant. The other thing that I thought was really interesting, this discussion of strategic surprise. And I spoke to an intelligence officer, a former intelligence officer, then became an MP here, a member of parliament in the Likud party. But she's got a particular spin on this. But her background is in Unit 8200, which is, I am told, on par with NSA, obviously not, but doesn't have the scale of NSA. I'm talking as far as skill, and the Israelis go really hard out on recruiting kids from school. I mean, all the nerdy kids with thick glasses, and these guys are inducted into the unit. I mean, you guys know how good the Israelis are at that particular sort of technical intelligence collection, which is why everyone's scratching their heads. But this intelligence officer, an MP, made a very, I thought, perceptive comment. She said, a couple of things. She said, "I'm an intelligence officer by profession, but we mistrain." Jason, don't get up in arms about this. I know. I mean, but we mistrain our people now. They're useless. They still think that if they're collecting something that is not classified, it's useless. But she's not criticizing the talent. She's criticizing the doctrine, the fact that we still teach them this, and they start to think, and you've seen this too, the more effort you put into collecting information, right, the more valuable it seems, and you kind of blow off things that are hitting you in the face, and confirmation bias, right? And so, and we've seen this too. I mean, to some extent, that played an element in 9/11. But it, a little bit different. Our complacency was for other reasons. But here it was, it was found this feeling of We've got a kind of gentler IDF. What I didn't realize is that there's been a lot of problems here with the court, with tension between the military and the government over the judicial reform, military officers refusing to serve, to include a pilot. This was before the war.
Yeah,
All that shit's
weren't a
ended.
bunch of them
All that
on?
shit's ended.
A bunch of them were protesting, right? We're like not showing up.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really, I mean, there's a lot to talk about here. I'm not going to talk about it all now, but it's a really interesting argument, because we in the States have bemoaned the fact that the military has become increasingly politicized. Now, I'm not going to argue either way, but I think there are some arguments in that towards that. I don't mean by senior officers. I meant that military, like Marines, okay, always up on geopolitical events, always eager to argue politics. No, right? In the past, it was all, well, you know what Marines talk about. But it seems now people are becoming, even in the military, increasingly polarized. And I think it's by stupid shit. Stuff that a lot of these guys,
right,
frankly, don't even understand the issues.
right.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
Anyway, that I find concerning. So seeing that sort of thing happen in the IDF is very interesting.
Yeah.
I'd love to get Jason's take on like, for me, Unit 8200 or Mossad or whoever, Shin Bet, whoever was supposed to like be on top of Gaza and Hamas. I mean, they shit the bed pretty badly.
Yeah.
And, America, even before 9/11, had a spectrum of like things to worry about and people, groups to worry about, or countries to worry about. When you're Israel, it's like three things, really.
Yeah.
It's Iran, it's Hezbollah, it's Hamas. And, for them to have such a big movement of 2,500 guys, without even hearing about it or sniffing it or anything, 8,200's like the NSA, but smaller, a boutique NSA, you would think like their SIGINT would pick up something like that. I mean, and I'm sure there were reports early on that there was some like, human stuff from Egypt or whatever that didn't go up the food chain and no one really mobilized. It's kind of crazy to me that they fell asleep at the wheel, to be honest.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm not gonna, shit on these guys and girls because I'm not there. But just from discussions that I've had, things I've read, seen, things like that, it seems that there was to use, Andy's apt term, there was complacency. And from what I understand, there was a big reliance in the area where the infiltrations came from on technology. They have that super wall that I've heard it called, where you have, you've got cameras, you've everything from physical wall to cameras to hydrostat balloons, all this stuff. And I watched an interview where I think she's former IDF, I believe. She said that's what she did, the balloons. And she said on the day of the attacks that area where she was not working at all. And it was kind of just accepted, okay, we'll get it fixed when we get it fixed. And prior to that, apparently there had been probes, not physical right up on the wall, try to get through probes, but approaches to those areas where they were able to get in to see what the response would be. And basically it was just like, oh, these dudes again, train get guns on them, but that's about it. And they get used to it. Again, it's complacency. And I think that the reliance on human intelligence wasn't there, or maybe it was, and it didn't get to where it needed to go to, because that's the stories that we're hearing too, that there was information months ago, a year ago, that these things were being planned, like to the exact places that they were going to come through, and their exact tactics, videos of it, everything. And for whatever reason, it was just 9/11 style ignored. So I think Andy hit the nail on the head with that one, with complacency. So again, I'm not there. I can't say that's exactly it, but that's what I'm being told.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, the Israelis saturated Gaza with informants. and they're good at running human too. I mean,
Yep.
they're good. I mean, there's no one. So it gets back to that point of even the best intelligence processes and technical equipment in the world cannot overcome confirmation bias.
Absolutely.
And one of I don't know if this is something that if this is a thing in the intelligence community, but in operations we do well with intelligence we do the red teaming, right?
Yep.
And I think there should be we making it still is an operational intel problem. We have to make assumptions to continue planning, right?
Mhm.
The Israelis made assumptions, but they by their own own admission didn't challenge them. There was no one to say, hey, wait a second, what if this does fucking mean something?
Yeah.
And by the way, what if it means all this? And then people may laugh at him, but the boss, once you sow that seed and someone said that, now in the open, you've got to,
Yeah.
validate it or dismiss it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very interesting that despite the fact that they are one of the most technically advanced they have one of the most technically advanced collection capabilities in the world. It was human error
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
human whatever.
complacency is the perfect word for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of worry,
Negligence.
if we got hit again in America, in the US, with a terrorist attack, how our response would be, especially if we miss it. Like, I don't think we would learn from the history we've gone through, where it's like,
Yeah.
that's what I worry about. Because you see what's
Mm.
going on in Israel. They are, in my opinion anyway, and I'm not an expert, kind of overreacting. I think the idea of destroying Hamas is like, I don't see an end game there, really. I don't see where you're going to quell
Yeah, that's
extremism.
great point. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt.
no,
That
that's my
No,
thing.
no, so the other really fascinating thing here is that tension at the nexus between the senior military leadership and the political leadership. All right, we've seen this in the States. Here, it's a very, very interesting relationship, and in fact, although of course political control the military has always had a great deal of respect here because it's literally a citizen army. And so, since everyone in the military is all of the population have served in the military except for the ultra orthodox, who are causing a lot of the problems and don't have to fight to defend them. But my point is, so when a general speaks, there's natural respect for him. He is one of the. Some people think that's a little unhealthy, but everyone's together on this now. And that is to your point, D. Certainly, I'm not challenging that, and I mean that's one of the reasons why I'm here to try and work out what the hell is going on. And and the only thing I can offer you right now is a quote from Moshe Dayan, and in fact, I'm going to turn over to Jason while I look for this quote. So,
Okay.
Yeah,
D. So speaking to what you were just talking about here in the U.S., one of the great quote unquote things we did after 9/11 was we put a huge emphasis on sharing information. Prior to 9/11, and this was hammered into me when I first got to the agency, was we collected, as we just spoke about before, in our circles, our intel. FBI collected theirs, NSA collected theirs. Everybody did their thing. Nobody shared a thing.
Yeah.
Everybody was so tight-lipped on it. Nobody shared a thing. So I think, and we're still coming off of that to our detriment, that and I'm probably going to get hammered for calling it this, but that sugar high of the war on terror, we're still kind of in that mindset, and we're playing catch up on traditional, at least from the intel's perspective, that traditional collection, target collection. So I think if there was an attack here in the U.S., more so than anything, our political and ideological divisions would cause the biggest issues. As far as intel is concerned, and if maybe probably the military, because again, that's going to come into play if there's an intel or if there's a terrorist attack in the U.S. Well, now the big thing is going to be collectively we're going to stop, look towards DC, and be like, what are we doing with the military? Because you're going to have people screaming posse comitatus. You're going to have all kinds of stuff going on. So if it's a smart terror organization that's hitting us or a proxy, they're going to take full advantage of that. So, and I think, I don't know, I don't speak for Hamas, thank God, but I think their timing of their attack was fortuitous based on the fact that there is political upheaval there. So you had, like, look at the protests, you know, immediately after the dust has not settled, but the quote, for lack of a better term, dust settled, immediate protests within Israel and abroad. So it'll be tough. It will be tough for them, and it is going to be tough for us if it ever happens, you know.
Yeah.
Knock on wood, it doesn't.
Do you not? And in answer to your comment, I'm going to just read this quote, and I will say that that this has been quoted to me too, as a rationale. Okay, and here's the quote: "We cannot always prevent the murder of workers in an orchard, but we can set a high price for our blood, a price too high for the Arab settlement, the Arab army, and the Arab government to pay. Retaliation operations are not for vengeance. It is an act of punishment and warning that if that state does not control its population and does not prevent them attacking us, the Israeli forces will cause havoc in its land." You know, so I'm not saying, hey, that justifies everything. I'm just saying we've got to understand the mentality. This is what they refer to, and they see, whereas we from outside see an army that is very negligently causing huge number of casualties and making a political situation far worse. That's the common criticism, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's not happening. I'm just saying here they're aware of that criticism. They are united together, and even the lefties now are behind the wall. They're not behind the government. Netanyahu has at the most the highest estimates 15%. I mean, he's not a popular guy.
No,
for a lot of reasons. He's hated by the hostage families. And last thing I'll say, by the way, there's still 6 American hostages. 2 have died, but 6 remain unaccounted for. And 40 Americans were killed on 6 October. They're dual nationals. But the interesting thing about this, and there is a lot of bitterness here among the American Israelis, because they feel they're angry at the government, and they feel that because their sons, daughters were Americans, that the U.S. government should represent them in the negotiations, not the Israeli government, because they say, I'm just quoting them, we don't trust this particular guy in power here. And these guys were Americans, but we feel, I'm quoting, I'm paraphrasing them, we feel as though because they were dual nationals, they're not given the full rights of a U.S. citizen.
right. And listen,
which is an interesting point.
If Israel and, more specifically, I guess Netanyahu, because he's got every motivation to keep this going, because the minute there's a ceasefire, he's gone. See you.
He's gone.
More than likely, yeah.
And you're right, and that's the sense here that the anger from the hostage families, and it's I can talk about this in another episode, but it's palpable. And it's about that they feel that there's a lot of political grandstanding going on, and people trying to save their political careers, and the combatants and the hostages and the civilians of Gaza are all the people who are suffering.
Yep.
From this.
And like from the U.S. perspective, like how much longer do we let this go the way it's being prosecuted? Like, do we really want Israel to drag us into a regional war, which we're kind of there already, right? Like we're kind of, I guess, nipping at.
I'm in a minority here. I'm not. I think this too will pass as far as the United States. What concerns me more is a comment that I saw in an official document today that basically said the regional Arab countries now I'm going to get vilified for this. I'm just quoting, trust Israel more than they trust the United States.
Mm.
Oh wow.
Okay. UAE, Saudi Arabia. Um, so that may be true. You know, they understand Israel.
Yeah.
And I think too,
Israel is more predictable because
yeah.
they have studied Israel.
And
they don't know what we're going to do. It all depends on the elections.
Yeah, and also too, they've seen Israel do exactly what they said they're going to do. You know, they're not fair weather. They're not whichever the ways the wind blows. This is what we're going to do. From the 60s on, they've said this is, or the 40s on, this is what we're going to do if X happen or A happens. And when it happens, they do exactly what they say they're going to do. So of course they're going to trust them more than us. For us, I think you started to allude to it, Andy. I think it's a better, or I think it's more for us, the U.S. government. I'm speaking on a matter of this is working for us, so let's just leave it the way it is for now. We're gonna put our little protests out there, but at the same time, if it's working for us and nothing, it's not blowing back on us, let's just leave it the way it is.
Have you guys seen any? I haven't seen much coverage of the American hostages.
None.
I've got dog tags with their names on, but I wasn't even familiar with their names. 3 of them are New Yorkers, by the way, D.
Mm.
Not that makes them, not that makes them more deserving human beings or less deserving human beings, but it's kind of, I don't know. But I'm wondering if the Senate, who's the senator?
New York.
Yeah, who are the 2?
Chuck Schumer and Christian Gillibrand.
Okay, Schumer. That's right. Yeah, Schumer. They've written to Schumer to say, hey, look, 3 of your constituents are being held hostage by Hamas and the U.S. government. I'm just quoting. Is not.
But again,
actively involved in
like negotiations, sure, but like the U.S. government spun up 5,000 JSOC guys ready to go if they could do it, and it's an urban area that's impossible to like traverse.
I've got it. This is not me criticizing.
No, yeah, I know.
It's a tremendously difficult decision. I am just kind of relaying conversations that I've had, and I've immense, obviously.
So why do you think the U.S. isn't more involved in like trying to negotiate a deal and like pressuring Israel more? And
I think it is this. All right, politically, domestically within the United States, Israel has always been a live wire.
Mm-hmm.
Always. All right, it is in foreign policy. When push comes to shove, it causes huge divisions within our country, and Netanyahu knows that, and has worked that scene before to his own benefit.
Yep.
There's all kinds of reasons. I was talking to, I get all my information. Anyway, I know Jason's got to go soon, but it's a really, it is a very interesting topic. It is a live wire, but the biggest supporters of Israel in the States aren't American Jews. American Jews tend to vote Democrat, right? Certainly in New York, right, D? Tend to be more liberal, and so they're not. It's like the far right, the evangelicals.
Yeah.
And it all gets kind of weird because the evangelicals now are over here talking about it's this whole religiosity thing. And the Palestinians don't figure in those people's view of of the history of this place. So no one, the evangelicals aren't wringing their hands at 28,000 dead Palestinian civilians, right? Who are all human beings. And I think we all understand that the implicit inequity in how we treat civilian casualties, based largely on how similar they look or sound or culturally are to ourselves.
Right.
And the further away they are on that spectrum, the less we really care.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And to further your question, D, I think that we are negotiating on some level. We just don't hear about it.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're completely hands off. I just don't think we know what's happening behind closed doors. How fervent that push is, I can't say, and I don't know, but obviously it's not enough for the families. So until they're, either know that they're A, dead or alive, or B, standing right in front of them, hugging them, it's not going to be enough.
Yeah.
So but I think it's probably happening.
I hope so.
Me too.
Well, fellas, that's about it.
That was good.
Yeah, very good. D, right over to you for the plug.
Yeah, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe. If you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify or any of the audio platforms, remember to rate and review it 5 stars. That helps us out big time. Check out the Patreon, patreon.com/teamhouse. All the links will be in the description. Check out Andy's Substack. Check out Andy's Twitter. Jason doesn't have a Twitter.
I'm a
It's
hermit.
okay. Don't worry about that. We forgive you. And that's it. Oh, the guys will be on the Team House on Monday live from the studio in Brooklyn. So get excited.
Which means I have to wear pants.
Yeah, finally. God, I've been waiting for Jason to put on pants. You guys got to see what happens before the show starts.
I got to wear a shirt. All right, everyone. See you in a
Thanks,
few
everybody.
days. All the best. Take care.